All right, so this is actually something that's pretty sad, man. By the title, this says, Uncle unalives his pregnant niece. And by the title and thumbnail, y'all see why he did. I'm going to give you all a trigger warning before this starts, that this can be very, very triggering.
When talking about an emerging case, it can be very difficult to keep the facts straight. It's natural for anyone with information to go on social media and tell the world what they know. It can be difficult for some people to sift through all the noise between facts and rumors. Some people would tell you that these cases should never be talked about until they're resolved, but as it pertains to a case that needs signal boosting, especially one where the victim has yet to be found, I think speaking about it is necessary, and many of you have reached out asking for us to shine a light on this one. Because of this, we'll be largely sticking to official sources today while the investigation is ongoing. This is a story that needs to be told about a poor girl who has been missing for over a year. Please stick with us while we tell you about Ziyah Harris.
Ziyah Harris was born on September 16th, 2010 in Detroit, Michigan. From the outside, she lived a fairly normal life. She was a straight-A student at J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy. Like many girls her age, she was active on social media, especially TikTok. According to the 7 Mile Radio podcast, Ziyah's birth was the product of a workplace affair. Her father, Mervyn Jennings, was married at the time, and he and his wife were going through a rough patch heightened by his alcoholism. Ziyah's mother, Chantel, was also using drugs at the time and was considered a party girl. According to Mervyn, the pair signed away their parental rights to Ziyah's maternal grandmother, Annette Harris. He said that he did this to protect his wife's feelings, as well as to make sure that Annette was able to get the assistance she needed to care for Ziyah. Mervyn claimed that he visited Ziyah when he could and even provided support for his young daughter. Allegedly, he lost contact with Ziyah and Annette when they moved away during one of his many medical procedures. According to Mervyn, he had a heart condition that required surgery. At the time of our story, 13-year-old Ziyah and Annette lived together in Detroit. She was a beautiful young girl who often wore her dark hair in braids. But despite outward appearances, Ziyah's life was far from normal, and she was in an incredibly dangerous situation.
Ziyah's aunt, Shannon Harris, had a relationship with a man named Jarvis Butts. Now, Jarvis had a history of predatory behavior with women and young girls. He would find women with young daughters and then build a relationship with them over time.
How, bro, if he had a history as a parent, why would you bring this man into your household? Because if he had a history, then he had a history. So it's no way that you let that man into your space, knowing his history.
Then he would prey upon the minors and tell them to keep it a secret. He himself had fathered multiple children, including Ziyah's young cousins. The earliest instance of this behavior was in 2005, which he was subsequently convicted for. When he was released from jail, he was put on the registry. 2012 to 2014, he targeted a child between 8 and 10 years old. His third victim was between 4 and 6 years old when he did the same to her from 2015 to 2017. Jarvis infected this girl with chlamydia.
Wow.
Some sources state that she was his biological daughter, and others claim that she was the daughter of his girlfriend at the time. Ziyah was Jarvis' fourth victim, and she was 11 when he began assaulting her. Some family members didn't want him around Ziyah for obvious reasons. His reputation preceded himself, but their warnings went unheard. Between 2015 and 2022, Jarvis has had at least 5 CPS reports made against him detailing inappropriate conduct with children. Shannon was aware of these reports and even confided in other family members.
So you was aware? What? I was just finna say, I wonder was she aware or not? Because I was finna say people can hide, but this is why you need to know the background of people. Have you been arrested before? Yes or no? Why? But dang, and she still let it go on. That's crazy.
Two of these reports were made by a pair of her relatives. The first was Jernell Smith Holland, who is said to be Shannon's aunt and Ziyah's great aunt. During a birthday party in February of 2022, Jarvis lured Ziyah and another unnamed minor girl into an isolated place and assaulted them. Jernell learned about the attack from Shannon and urged her niece to make a CPS report. Shannon said she would, so Jernell trusted that all would be taken care of, but it wasn't. In April, Jernell contacted CPS herself to report the incident at the birthday party. Shannon was subsequently contacted about her children's safety and for Jarvis's information. Another relative, Kiwana Morton, made her own report after speaking with Shannon about Jarvis. Kiwana reported potential inappropriate behavior within the family and made a point to mention Jarvis by name. He was interviewed for these accusations, which he denied. They also spoke with the unnamed girl.
Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, man? Listen up. I've never done a giveaway before, and obviously, it's long overdue. So not only do I want to tell you all thank you, but I want to show you all how much appreciative I am of the support y'all been giving me. So do me a huge favor right now. Drop your Cash App tag down below. You can comment it 50 times. The more times that you comment it, the higher the chances that you are to win. I'm going to be doing this every single month. So if you rock with me, tap in, and good luck. Let's run it up.
Rolling Kiwana's report and search the home. However, nothing else came from either of these reports.
Right.
Later questioned by the press, CPS didn't provide any insight of further action taken to protect Ziyah or of their investigation of Jarvis. Like in many preventable cases we've covered, it seems as if the information was recorded, filed away, and forgotten about. While at least some steps were taken for the unnamed girl in Kiwana's report, none were taken for Ziyah. CPS did alert the Detroit Police Department about concerns for her safety, but they didn't follow up. Between 2023 and 2024, Shannon and Jarvis had broken things off. He was still in her life as the father of her children, and by extension, in Ziyah's life too. And to be clear, we have heard accounts that he was referring to Ziyah as his niece even after the fact.
Wow.
Despite quickly moving on and even becoming engaged to another woman, he continued to see Ziyah in secret.
Wow.
On January 9th, 2024, Ziyah stepped off her school bus on Cornwall Street in 3 Mile Drive. She was never seen by her family again. CCTV caught footage of Ziyah getting on the school bus in the morning and leaving her campus later that day. Her bus driver saw her get off at her usual stop. Earlier that day, Ziyah used her school-issued tablet to message Jarvis. The text read as follows. Don't forget, be there before 3. I will let you know when I'm leaving the school. If you're not there, I will wait. She followed up with, send okay if you see the message so I can delete your number. Jarvis replied, okay. Ziyah also took this picture of herself, which was the last picture of her taken alive.
That's sad, man.
Annette Harris reported her granddaughter missing the following day on January 10th.
Prayed on this girl, man, and had her mind. Like, that is crazy. Had her mind all messed up, bro.
She was and still is criticized for her delay in taking action, but she wouldn't be the only one. The Detroit Public Schools Community District tried handling the investigation on their own. They thought it was just a teenage runaway case and that they could get Ziyah home by themselves. School resource officer Derek Wolf was assigned to the case. Annette was puzzled as to how Ziyah could disappear between her school bus stop and her front door, as the bus stop was only a short walk from her house.
Right.
On February 13th, the community district turned to the Detroit Police Department when they realized it was beyond their expertise.
Right.
Mind you, it took an entire month for this change to happen. Investigators spoke to Ziyah's friends and classmates, hoping to gain some kind of lead, but the students that knew her well did not share anything useful at first. But eventually, their silence broke. It's unclear how much Ziyah confided in her friends. According to Chief of Public Safety, LaBritt Jackson, sometimes they may think they're helping a friend by withholding information, but they're not. The initial roadblock was a lack of cooperation by the students. She had told them that she planned on running away, but her classmates didn't tell us that initially. I don't know if they're being totally forthcoming now. Kids are extremely loyal to each other.
With police searching for Ziyah, Annette told reporters,
I want my baby home. And I'm asking in the name of Jesus, and I stand on my faith that he's going to bring her home. And we're asking anybody that has any information, I don't care who it is, please come forth, contact the police department. Her life could be in danger. We can't rule anything out, and I'm hoping and praying that that is not the case. I'm standing on my faith.
Right.
That God is going to bring my baby home. But it's been really rough. You know, footage of her getting on the school bus, and the bus driver did say that she did get off at her regular stop, okay? And she was supposed to have been coming home like she normally do every day. When a child is missing, you got to look everywhere. I had no idea that it was going to be here. I was just told that this is where it was going to be. Ziyah needs to be home with her family, and we love her. So if you are harboring her, there is a law for that. And I'm asking that whoever has any information about my granddaughter to please contact the police. Please.
Police
Wow, she was
quickly
a
learned
beautiful
that
young
Ziyah
girl.
was not the type to go MIA. She had no unexcused absences from school, and she was very active on social media. For her to go completely silent like this was completely out of character. On February 20th, the Detroit police released a missing persons flyer on their Facebook page that described Ziyah as being 5'2" and 130 pounds. She was last seen wearing clear frame glasses, a white sweater, a black jacket or hoodie, a pink and white Rugrats coat with a fur collar, light blue denim jeans, and blue and white Nike gym shoes. At the time she disappeared, Ziyah was wearing her hair in 2 braided puff balls, which can also be seen in her last selfie. On February 14th, the police performed a grid search in Ziyah's neighborhood within a 4-mile radius from her home, even handing out flyers to neighbors and bringing out canine units. Active gang members and people who wouldn't normally be collaborating with police were out in full force, participating in these searches. The chief of public safety was hopeful they could bring her home alive and well, but in his words, we can't operate on hope and we have to operate on information.
Facts.
Now, before Ziyah went missing, her father Mervin suffered a stroke made worse by his chronic heart condition.
Wow.
He was hospitalized when he learned that his daughter was reported missing. It said that he and his wife Nakia were among the people out searching for Ziyah on the days his condition allowed. Mervin said in an interview,
"Some people don't even know me, and they coming out. They came up to see me at the hospital. They asked me some questions about my daughter. Have I seen her? And I haven't seen my daughter. You have moments in your life where you do think you're standing alone."
Ziyah's disappearance caused a divide in her family. Some relatives were upset that Jarvis was allowed to be so close to Ziyah, especially unsupervised. In my opinion, he shouldn't have been allowed near her at all.
Detective Jason Mays and his partner interviewed Jarvis Butts on February 15th as he was already in the Wayne County Jail on unrelated charges. He claimed he hadn't seen Ziyah since late December to early January and said they were both in her grandmother's home. He was also asked about texts between them. Jarvis also told investigators Ziyah often came to the auto shop he worked at to visit his daughter. Jarvis was asked about what his day was like on January 9th, and he said he had some criminal charges to take care of. This was somewhat true. He had criminal charges filed against him for carrying a concealed weapon, and his new fiancée had taken him to the police station so he could turn himself in. However, the date he was supposed to turn himself in had been pushed back to February. While incarcerated, he called a coworker and asked them to retrieve his phone, as he had left it in a truck and wanted to get it before the police did. On March 6, investigators brought their search efforts to a pond near the intersection of Gratiot Avenue and Quinn Road in Clinton Township, just behind a shopping center. It was thought Ziyah could be there, or that they could find evidence of her being there. However, their initial search did not yield any results. On March 7th, a woman named Valerie Smith called the Detroit Police Department with evidence. For 2 weeks, Valerie walked past a lost school ID card. One day, she picked it up and recognized Ziyah's face immediately.
What?
March 12th, U.S. Border Patrol agent Wyatt Barnes located discarded clothing in the area of 7 Mile and Berg near the Rouge River. He found a shoe, a pair of pink overalls, a black hoodie with a set of headphones in its pocket, and a towel.
Why is it taking so long to find her? Like, why was it taking that shit? That stuff should have been 25. That city is not that big for y'all to not be able to find her. And y'all knew exactly who to get in contact with if they already had a problem going on. Like, the justice system of boy.
Clothing was reported to be damaged in some way, pointing to some kind of altercation. It later come out that there was blood evidence found on it. However, there were no major updates after March. It took until August 15th for more updates to be made to the public, including background information and a timeline of events from January 9th.
When Ziyah got off the school bus, she met Jarvis and one of his co-workers, and they took her to the auto shop. According to reports, Jarvis's sister was in the building at the time. She saw Ziyah but didn't say anything to her. Jarvis, Ziyah, and the coworker later went to Ypsilanti before returning to the auto shop. Jarvis rented a room at the Park Crest Motel from 9:30 p.m. on January 9th to 12:20 p.m. on the 10th. The workers at the front desk would later provide these records to the police. Jarvis's phone was tracking his location during this entire period and placed him near the Rouge River on January 10th.
Dang.
After Ziyah went missing and before her clothes were found. Investigators found many text messages between Ziyah and Jarvis of an explicit nature, which we're not going to read for you. Some of these messages included pictures. By going through the messages, police found a potential motive. On September 26, 2023, Ziyah told Jarvis she had missed her period. She had taken a pregnancy test before and it had come back negative, but she needed to test again and didn't have the money to buy another. She told Jarvis, "You ain't scared to get a plan B. Get a pregnancy test and bring it later today and just act like you have to use the bathroom." On November 27th, Ziyah texted Jarvis and said, "I just want to talk. I really don't want to lose you.
Wow.
Can we talk later? Yes or no? I don't know what your problem, but I need you to bring me what I need tonight. It's hard doing all this gym shit with this baby, and if I don't do them, I'm gonna get an F."
So I'm gonna let y'all know something, bro. This is way deeper than y'all think it is, bro. Like, this is a story that you can tell on how victims stay victims. You know what I'm saying? Like the manipulation into predatory behavior from someone preying on someone and putting them in an emotional state to feel like that's what they want to do. Because I know if she would have became older, she would have realized everything that has happened. This guy was preying on her. But to know that he put her in a mental, emotional situation like that by entering in the space of her body that is very just, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're just different, bro. And that's sad. Like I said, this is deeper. Like, if y'all pay attention and just see her responses, you can tell that it's sad because that's not her, man. Like, honestly.
During this time, Jarvis's search history recorded him researching how to terminate a pregnancy, both through medical means and through more unsafe methods. One specific result investigators found involved drinking red antifreeze. Evidence from Ziyah's devices suggested she was also conducting similar searches.
On August 15th, the Detroit Police Department submitted an arrest warrant request to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. Not long after, Jarvis was arrested. At first, it was thought that the arrest was tied to Ziyah's disappearance, but this wasn't the only reason. Prosecutor's office was building its case against Jarvis for all his past assaults against children. On September 26th, the Detroit Police Department announced that they were pivoting from a missing persons investigation to a homicide investigation. Although her physical body was never recovered, the police and the prosecutor's office felt there was enough evidence to show that Ziyah was no longer alive. Prosecutor Kim Worthy said in a statement, "The evidence in this case will clearly show that the defendant's alleged actions were beyond predatory. They were vulturous. He groomed and preyed upon Ziyah with expertise. It will prove that he killed young Ziyah after he found out she was pregnant at 13 with his child." That same month, Prosecutor Worthy addressed the public in a press conference where she summarized the investigative efforts and the plans moving forward. She also gave a warning to any parents that were listening to her.
We must be very careful who we let into our hearts and our homes and our lives, especially if you have children. We must be very careful who we have around our children and elders respectively. We must also be very careful who we leave our children with, even if they are in a relationship partners, family, and friends. I'll say that again. Even if they are relationship partners, families, or friends. Life can be hard enough at times, but when it comes to our children, we must be deliberative, we must be diligent, and laser focused on their safety. And sometimes we must make decisions about them and their lives that we may not like and that they may not like, but it's for the betterment of them and their safety and their future. When something doesn't feel right, even if it's just that voice in your head, it usually isn't right. And sometimes when we are attentive and we do everything right by our children, things can still happen and still go very wrong despite our best efforts. This can happen to good watchers of children. But we must always ask ourselves at the end of each and every day, was I right by each member of my household in terms of their safety? Did I do right by my children?
On September 27th, Jarvis was charged with first-degree premeditated murder, child SA activity, and second-degree criminal sexual conduct of a person under 13. There were also additional charges filed for acts of SA he committed before preying on Ziyah. Jarvis was held in jail until his preliminary hearing on October 10th, where he was brought before Judge Aaliyah Sabri. In light of the danger he posed to the community, Jarvis was denied bond and was also charged as a fourth-time offender.
Wow.
Ziyah's paternal aunt, Tiffany Jennings, stayed out of the public eye until after Jarvis's arrest. She was asked by reporter Sean Lay who was responsible for protecting Ziyah from Jarvis, to which she said,
"Oh, what a loaded question, right, Sean? In my personal opinion, with no affiliation, there are multiple parties involved, as many have already stated. And I just have to hold on to hope that the entire truth will come to light. This is the beginning of the truth, and we're very grateful for this part, but the entire story will come out."
Yeah, her family had a big part to do with this, man, because she should have been protected by this man, knowing the history of him with her in general. Like it should, man, but that psychological damage is something, man.
Ziyah was only beginning to repair her relationship with her father and her paternal family by extension. But in this interview, Tiffany implies that those closest to Ziyah had a hand, directly or indirectly, in everything that happened to her.
Ziyah's family members were in the courtroom audience throughout the legal proceedings that took place between November 1st, 2024 and January 6, 2025. The prosecution not only focused on Ziyah, but on the other girls Jarvis targeted as well. Now 20 and 13 years old, two of Jarvis's prior victims took the stand. Jarvis's co-worker, Cordell King Wright, who was also incarcerated at the Wayne County Jail for unrelated charges, was brought in as a witness. He testified that he and Jarvis had picked Ziyah up on their way back from AutoZone and brought her back to the auto shop on the 9th. He said he did not see her after that day. Jarvis's sister, Tiwana Butts, also testified that she was at the auto shop on January 9th and saw a little girl getting in and out of Jarvis's white Cadillac Escalade. She later realized that this little girl was Ziyah. Tiwana also was able to identify some of the clothes that Ziyah was wearing that day. Jarvis's former fiancée, Tashiana Davis, was among the prosecution's witnesses. As we mentioned earlier, she was his ride to the police station when he had to turn himself in. She testified he was always protective of his phone because he was a habitual cheater. She stayed with him despite these affairs because she saw him as good with kids.
Nah,
yes,
what?
You heard that correctly. In addition, one of Jarvis's former girlfriends said he borrowed her
Lock her up too. Lock her up too. Please, throw the key away.
car on January 9th. When she got the car back, she found a pair of glasses inside. They were identical to the set Ziyah often wore.
Testimonies from investigators furthered the case against Jarvis. The text messages between Ziyah and Jarvis were presented in court. The earliest were dated back to September of 2022. Ziyah would have only been 12 years old. In one exchange, Jarvis visited the Harris house when no one was home. He told Ziyah he left with a pair of her underwear. He solicited Ziyah for explicit pictures of herself, made sexual advances, and guilt-tripped her when she wouldn't do what he wanted. In the end, Judge Aaliyah Sabri had harsh words for Jarvis and everyone that failed Ziyah.
I hope that your backdoor hole is inside out in jail. I hope it's so inside out that they have to put it back in the right side or whatever you want to call it.
You've been sitting over there for 4 days with your head down, sitting between and behind your attorney with your mask on and taking vigorous notes. I want you to pay attention and listen to everything I have to say. I have been trying to figure out for the last 5 days, you. At one point, I thought you were cognitively impaired in the beginning of this exam. And then maybe you had the brain of a 10-year-old, and that's why you were doing such things. But as I heard more and more testimony, you are just a true definition of a
Yep.
Watching you laugh and brag about all the women you have with different women and the children and the girlfriends, and making babies to groom them, and having them in your presence, and cleaning up your shop, and the little girls around you, has landed you here today. You groomed Ziyah. You played mind games with her. We all heard that. You controlled her emotionally. She was exposed to so much at such a young age. The text messages between you two were disgusting to hear. And to think that she had you saved in her phone as bae for life.
Wow. That is crazy.
Deserves so much more. And while I mentioned other people that failed her, Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture.
Death penalty.
She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like.
Man.
Your children deserve more. As much as the defense counsel has raised issues on count one, all that has done is raise the question of fact for the trier of fact, which means that this will be for a jury or a judge to hear at Third Circuit. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children and especially our black girls. I pray for closure and healing for all those who have been traumatized by you.
Facts.
And for you, Jarvis Butts, I wish you a speedy trial and that justice be delivered.
Detroit-based rap artist Trayvon Gardner, known professionally as Skilla Baby, followed Ziyah Harris's story. When the news broke that Ziyah was officially declared dead, Skilla Baby mourned her loss. He made a post on his Instagram where he announced that he was willing to cover the entire cost of a memorial service for Ziyah. His account still exists, but it's been wiped of all activity. There are still some screenshots of this particular post. Ziyah's cousin Roxy confirmed that many celebrities, including Skilla Baby, had reached out to her. She told reporters, "My goal was to make sure Ziyah Harris's story reached worldwide." And
Well, it
reached
did.
worldwide because this isn't only happening in the city of Detroit, but it's happening everywhere. Now more women and more young girls are speaking up. And that was my ultimate goal for not only Ziyah to get justice, but for every young girl and every young woman who has ever been sexually abused to get justice.
In addition, Mark DeAndre of the 7 Mile Radio podcast used his platform to help spread Ziyah's story across Detroit as early as February of 2024. Mark interviewed family members during his live segments, including Ziyah's biological father, Mervyn Jennings. At first, Mark worked closely with Ziyah's cousin Roxy, but Mark and Roxy parted ways in January of 2025. She shared the following post on her Facebook account, which reads in part, "I regret to inform you all with a very heavy heart that I am no longer associated or part of the 7 Mile Radio team with Mark due to irreconcilable differences. Please respectfully refrain from sharing any social media content associated with 7 Mile Radio with me. This decision was not an easy decision to make. However, it is best for me in my current journey in life at this time. I wish you the best in all of your future endeavors. Thank you for your gracious support and understanding." We mentioned 7 Mile Radio podcasts earlier in this episode, but there are a lot of creators such as Black Girl Gone and Shanitra Speaks that have done deep dives into the parts of the case that the media hasn't covered, such as Ziyah's family dynamics and the rumors that have been unfolding on social media. Since we can't corroborate some of what's been said with official sources, we won't be covering those points today.
Okay.
However, if that's something that interests you, we'll be sure to link their channels for you to check out.
In February of 2025, the Department of Health and Human Services released a lackluster official statement. It read, "Our hearts go out to the family and friends of Ziyah Harris. But we can't discuss specific cases due to state and federal laws. MDHHS is deeply committed to ensuring the health and safety of all children." There were many petitions created on change.org seeking justice for Ziyah. One of these was created by Tamara Liberty Smith, vice chairwoman for the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners, and also Mervyn Jennings' friend of 35 years. She included an open letter to Child Protective Services, which read, "The safety and well-being of our children must be our utmost priority. Recent events have highlighted a critical gap in the enforcement of CPS rules, allowing children to remain in environments where their safety is compromised by known violators of these rules. Ziyah Harris's tragic passing underscores the need for immediate action. Her life was cut short because a known pedophile was allowed to have contact with her, despite existing CPS guidelines intended to prevent such scenarios.
Right.
We believe that this tragedy could have been avoided with stricter enforcement and oversight. We urge CPS to, 1, review and strengthen policies, reevaluate current policies related to the custody and care of children who may be exposed to known pedophiles, ensuring that these policies are robust and comprehensive.
Right.
2, enhance monitoring and compliance, increase monitoring and enforcement efforts to ensure compliance with CPS rules, particularly in cases where a child's safety may be at risk. 3, implement mandatory reporting and accountability measures, establish mandatory below. There are other petitions out there on the web that are advocating for the arrest of Ziyah's grandmother Annette and her aunt Shannon as they allowed Jarvis into Ziyah's life."
Right.
Jarvis is scheduled to go to trial on October 6, 2025. He's facing a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole.
What's the minimum?
However, as he's yet to go to trial, he is considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Ziyah's father, Mervyn Jennings, died in August of 2024. It's unclear if he ever learned his daughter's fate or the man responsible for it. His family and friends spoke to the public on his behalf, asking for justice to be served.
Hopefully justice be served. I hate that they didn't even get a chance to charge him, because with all the evidence they have, I don't even think it's really no waiting you need to do. Like, in all honesty, there's no reason to wait. Everything is proof in the pudding. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Y'all let me know your honest thoughts and opinions on this down below. This is a sad story, man. I just want to say prayers out to the family members that did not fail her. Because just looking at this story and hearing about it and reading about it, like, it's sad because this little girl was failed by everybody. And the type of mental, psychological damage it did to her mind, this girl just wanted somebody that loved her. And it's sad that this dude preyed on that. And just little girls. Like, that's weird, man. That is weird. But if y'all feel like that this was crazy, y'all definitely need to tap into this video that's on the screen right now, because this is honestly way crazier.